Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you have been here before, you know that this is a series of videos in which I use tarot spreads to help us explore topics related to living an intentional life. And for quite a while, I've been using my week ahead spread for this. And this week, just as last week, I'm using the same set of decks. So, the spread has been laid, so let's take a look at it. I think these decks look so beautiful together. I say that or something like that almost every week, but it's true. It really is true. And if you're interested in the names of the decks and the creators, there will be, as usual, information at the end of the video. So check that out. And there will also be links below if you want to go and purchase one or all of these decks for yourself. Now, heads up, I have modified two of these decks. I've modified the two tarot decks. I cut the sides off of them. So if you purchase the deck, they won't look exactly the same as the ones I'm using. However, it's not difficult to modify a deck. And there are teachers all over the YouTube about deck mods, as they say. But my favorite teacher is Don Michelle at Boho Tarot. And I'll put a link to her channel below. So she gives you very clear, easy tips, processes for modifying decks, including trimming and edging, which I did both of them for the two tarot decks. So go check it out. Really, it's not that difficult. All you need is a guillotine cutter and some triangles, some washi tape, and if you want to edge, some markers, and you're good to go. It really is not that expensive. Oh, the corner rounders too. But it's really not that expensive and really not that difficult. So check it out. And let's get back to the spread. So as usual, there are three cards in the center, the three oracle cards, which give us the main theme of this spread. And around the sides, there are 4 questions being answered by the tarot decks. So let's look at the central 3 oracle cards of this spread. The 3 cards in the center give us the main message I said. The first one is Self-Sabotage. The next is Time to Soar. And the third is the Crone. And if you'll notice, did you notice that in the Self-Sabotage card, there's a staircase that looks like it's leading up. If you follow the staircase up and over to the right, it leads to the branch right above the bird's head, which I think is a lovely connection. So we want to move from self-sabotage to soaring. And what does that do? That will bring us over the mountain to the crone. So we've got a beautiful flow of image here. Now, from that self-sabotaging person looking down at themselves below in the pit and seeing themselves below, to the bird ready to soar, to the crone. And we'll talk about the crone in a little bit more depth in a bit. But first, let's look at the self-sabotage card. Now, what does self-sabotage mean? There are many flavors of self-sabotage. One flavor might be doing something that you know in your gut is wrong. You feel it in your gut, but you still do it anyways. And that could be many things. It could be looking at answers on a test, for example, and you feel like that's the right choice, but you tell yourself that you usually get it wrong, so you choose that one. Or it could be looking at a person and knowing in your gut that something is wrong, but still choosing that person because you're drawn to them but for some reason, and that some reason is probably an unhealthy reason. It could be a patterned reason. Or it could be choosing a job that you feel in your gut is wrong, but you think the money looks good, or you think other people will say you're clever for choosing that job, yeah? But you know in your gut that it's just not right. Those are all expressions of self-sabotage. Another flavor of it could be believing that you are confused, making yourself believe that you are confused, doubting your knowledge, doubting your ability to choose in any area of your life. Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever experienced those times when you believe that you cannot make a clear choice? Where you have convinced yourself that you cannot choose, or that you are confused, or that you are not connected to your intuition. I convinced myself about that for many, many years, that I am not connected with my intuition. And that was a method of self-sabotaging. It could also be doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, sometimes described as the definition of insanity, but that's a kind of self-sabotage. It could be not choosing. I think one of the greatest ways of self-sabotaging is giving up and not making a choice. If we choose, even if we choose something that does not help us, we can learn from it. If we do not choose, we do not move forward. Then we go into a state of inertia, of not moving. And speaking of not moving, there's one more self-sabotaging state that I'd like to touch on, and that is not picking ourselves up when we've fallen. We fall. And falling is a blessing. Gravity on this planet is a blessing. And we've learned to work with it, and we have chosen to work with it in these physical bodies on this planet. So gravity, as one example, is a blessing to us, and we want it. And when we trip and fall, that's okay. It's part of the rules of gravity. However, we want to get back up again. One way or the other. We may want to call for help to get ourselves back up. We may need medical attention, but we do the thing we need to do to get ourselves back up as much as we can, as much as physically possible. However, many times we choose to not get up. And right now I'm talking about actually physically getting up, but it could be emotionally. Now we get knocked over, knocked down, and we fall into a state of perhaps depression. And I'm not saying that depression is not a thing. What I'm saying is that over time, there are always ways for one who is depressed to reach out for help and to get up. It might take a day, it might take a week, it might take a month. However, as long as we are not doing what we need to do to get help, to move forwards, to get up, we are self-sabotaging. And I'd like to make a very clear distinction right now. Do you know the difference between responsibility and blame? We are all responsible for our results. We have responsibility for the results that we experience in life. And we have responsibility for how we react to those results. We may not react well. We may self-sabotage. However, that is not the same as being blamed. There is no blame here. You're not going to get blamed for self-sabotaging. You're not a bad person. You're not a lesser person. You're choosing something that is not beneficial for yourself at the moment, but that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. You're doing something bad. You're not a good guy, gal, non-gendered being. No one is blaming you, or no one should be blaming you. You do not need to blame yourself. And if anyone else tries to blame you for anything that is happening in your life, that is their problem. We want to gain the understanding that we never get anything wrong. We never get anything wrong. Yeah, we do things that are unhelpful, things that block us, that are resistant to the powerful flow of intention. We do things that knock us down, that knock other people down. And some people label those things as bad. However, we don't have to take that label as us. The action may have been not good. However, we were born pure, loving, joyful beings into these bodies. And we're still that. We are still that. Even at our worst, we are still that. There's no blame being assigned here. However, there are choices. We have choices. And we can make another choice. We can choose to do something other than self-sabotaging. I wanted to talk about success here for just a moment as well. What is success? Yeah, for example, the opposite of self-sabotage might be success. But what does success mean? Most people would think of success as things like moving up the corporate ladder, moving up the social ladder, moving onward, completing something well, finishing a project of art or some creative creation well. Some people might think it as getting the right answer on a test or to a question. It could also be learning from problems, though. Facing a problem and learning from it is also a form of success. Now, when we get an answer that is not correct, for example, or a different answer, or we do something that is not helpful, when we learn from that experience, then we have succeeded. It's also not succumbing to immobility. Even those of us who are perhaps immobile physically are not necessarily immobile intellectually or immobile spiritually. Because remember, we are spirit having a physical human experience. So even those of us who are unable to move are not fully immobile. We can still learn, we can still grow, and all of those things are success. However, we can also choose to self-sabotage. We can fall prey to our feeling of being less than, or unworthy, or trapped, or encaged, or encased, and decide, well, if my body can't move, the rest of me can't move either, so I'm just going to stay here and self-sabotage. Which is understandable. You're not being blamed for making that choice. You are not a bad person if you make that choice. However, it's best if we can realize we can always make another choice. Sometimes, what is the opposite of that? What is the opposite, then, of success? It's deciding that we are unworthy. It's not getting something wrong. It's not picking the wrong person, choosing the wrong job, getting the wrong answer. It's not even tripping and hurting ourselves or getting into a car accident. That's not self-sabotage, really. It could be the beginning of it, but that is not the self-sabotaging thing. The self-sabotaging thing is deciding that from those experiences that we are unworthy. So I'm never going to get into a car again. Doesn't mean you have to drive. choosing other modes of transportation is fine. Okay, it could also be, I am unworthy, I am unsafe, so I'm never going to get into any kind of transportation. I'm not going to get into another person's car. I'm not going to get onto a bus. I'm not going to get onto a plane. I'm not going to get onto a train. I am going to limit my experience because I made a mistake when I was driving. That is self-sabotage. Or perhaps relinquishing our power. That is self-sabotage. Deciding that, nope, I can't do it, I give up. You will do it all for me. Or I will sit here and stagnate and wait until death comes and takes me. Again, if you choose that, you are not a bad person. You're just choosing self-sabotage. And there is always another choice. Self-sabotage might be diminishing ourselves to give to others. Yeah. I'm going to use this example because all of my friends in elementary school and high school used this example because they were of, and are, most of them are alive, God thank you, of Jewish descent. So the typical Jewish mother, they all joked about that typical Jewish mother. That's okay, I'll sit here in the dark, don't worry about me. Now, it's a stereotype that I do not believe is necessarily helpful. Except for this one thing. It does point to a potential form of self-sabotaging, where you give to the other and diminish yourself in order to serve the other. Not in a healthy way, but in a ostentatiously suffering way. I am suffering to give to you, which in some way makes me better than you. Because I am suffering for you. And that is a form of self-sabotage. Because you're not going to get full, honest gratitude from that. Personal interaction is going to become complicated and somewhat negative and will degrade over time. And that's a form of self-sabotage. There are so many forms of self-sabotage. I'm not going to list them all now, but do any of those ring true for you? Have you noticed yourself doing any of those? I know I have. I have deliberately, like I said, made myself believe that I am confused, unable to choose, that I don't have connection to my intuition, that I am less than other people, that I am untalented and therefore unable to put myself forward in this or that field or area that I want to put myself forward in. I have self-sabotaged myself many times. Probably the most when I was a teenager, but it didn't go away the moment I turned 20. And it has not gone away now. There are times when I self-sabotage now. There are areas in my life where I'm more prone to self-sabotage than others. For example, in my case, it could be relationships. I self-sabotage in the area of relationships, love relationships in particular, romantic relationships in particular. I know I do that. And I'm working on that. We all, I believe, self-sabotage in many, many ways. So, we don't want to do that. We want to make another choice. And the next card in this series of 3 oracle cards is Time to Soar, which is what we want to do. When we fall down, when we make a choice that is not helpful, when we close ourselves off from the powerful force of intention, the thing we want to do is break free and soar. Like that bird in the picture. We want our hearts and our spirits to soar. We want to climb to the heights and perceive what is around us. All of the choices, all of the beauty that is around us. We want to soar up and experience that. And we also want to dive down. Now we want to climb to the heights to get a wide, beautiful perspective of everything that is around us, and then look for something and dive down deep to get a closer, detailed perspective, to investigate, and then soar back up. We want to have that ability to soar and dive and fly and all of that. Our nature is to do that, to be in joy. Which is, I think, the opposite of self-sabotage. It's joy, it's soaring, it's being able to move about at will. It could, and that could be physically, but it doesn't have to be physically. It could be mentally, it could be spiritually. Our spirits want to soar. We emotionally want to soar. And as we soar, we become powerful creators. Because we create in joy and we create with love. And the more joy and love we experience, the more we are flowing, and the quicker we are flowing with the powerful force of intention, and we create so much more powerfully. And we perceive so much more purely. And we are so much more well. We feel and know and revel in our well-being when we soar. So that's what we really want to do. Whether we allow ourselves to do it or not is our choice. We choose that. We make the choice to move in that direction. We can't expect ourselves to move from depression to joy in 10 seconds or an hour or maybe even a year. We can't necessarily expect that. But we can make the choice to take the next step closer. We can choose to move from depression or powerlessness to, for example, anger, which is not exactly joy and love, but it at least has a little bit more power. Can you feel that anger and frustration have more energy to them than, for example, depression and powerlessness? Now, we can take the steps to move in the direction of soaring and not blame ourselves for not being there yet. Because it's in that blame that we begin to self-sabotage again. Blaming ourselves for not getting there is another form of self-sabotage. We don't want to do that. We want to move in the other direction. And the way, I believe, to move in the other direction more consistently, more easily, more fully, is to embody our inner crone. We want to be our crone. And let me say a couple of things about the crone. One is that I'm not a woman and I don't have the place to make a decision about these kinds of things. However, for me, the limitation of 3 forms of femininity is not my favorite. Not my favorite. I get to choose what I like. I'm not saying you're wrong if you love that maiden mother crone. Perfectly great descriptions of kinds of expressions of what we like to call femininity, although I also don't like putting them in the female section only. There are male crones. There are male mothers. There are male maidens. I think I was a little bit of a male maiden from time to time when I was young. But if we want to think of feminine images, I think there are so many more that can be included, personally. Now, the warrior woman. There are images of Mary, the Catholic Mary, as a warrior knight, defeating evil. There is that warrior aspect of the feminine, the protector feminine. There is the creator, not necessarily mother, but the differently creator, woman. And it doesn't all need to be based on reproductivity to me. However, that's me. That's just me. So, the other element I wanted to touch on is that the crone is not only women. There are men. And, interesting thing, when I was meditating about 10 years ago maybe, it might be 10 years ago now, I was meditating, and this was a time of my practice when I was getting images flashing up before me that looked like waking dreams from time to time. It doesn't happen almost at all these days, but at that time I was getting these images, these short dreams in my waking meditation. And one of them was of an older woman in a hooded cloak. I would say I was about this much of her. She turned to me, faced me, and said something. I couldn't hear what she said. It was all image. But then after the meditation and talking with a fellow meditator, what shall we say, and person who studies Jungian psychology, we discussed it, and I realized and recognized that was an image of myself. I am a crone. Or that is my future self. That is the direction that I am moving in. I am moving into my crone state. And I think moving into and embodying our inner crone is the way to move more easily, more fluidly from self-sabotage to joy. Because I do not buy the image of the wizened old woman as the crone. I can see the crone as a vibrant, wise, yes, wise but not wizened, not weak, not physically weak, vibrant, perhaps even sexual woman. Not worried about the having to bear or carry children or nurture children anymore, but reveling in her body just for herself. Being fully and most freely herself, without need for recognition from anyone else, being fully, freely, wisely herself, embodying her fullest power. That is what I see as the crone. Embodying our inner crone, male and female, is the way to move easily, more easily and more fluidly into joy and love and well-being and pure awareness and moving with the powerful force of intention. She rises above. You saw her in the card. She rises above the mountains, the obstacles, easily. She is not clothed. She doesn't have to be hiding herself anymore. She is unclothed and unashamed and unabashed. She rises above difficulties with grace, with wisdom, and with her unique spirituality. Not following anybody else's path, but knowing her own path and following it with confidence and joy and love and well-being. She has moved beyond self-sabotage. And the more we embody our inner crone, I think the less we will be experiencing or bothered by self-sabotage, because we can leave that behind. Yeah, it might come up from time to time, but clearly, definitely not as much as it did before. And we will be able to soar above, like the bird, much more consistently. Does that make sense? Does that ring true for you? That's what I see in these cards. And I think there's a deep truth in this. A deep, non-gendered truth. Okay, friends, let's take a look at the 4 questions surrounding this reading and delve into those. The first question is perfect, right? What if I weren't afraid? Because that's all about self-sabotage, right? The fear. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear. So what if I wasn't afraid? What would I do? And we have two perfect answers. We have Maker 3, which for the Tarot of the Sidhe is the Three of Pentacles in for a standard Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Now, so we have Maker 3, Three of Pentacles, right next to the Seven of Spirals, which for the Philarkos deck is the Seven of Pentacles. So we've got two Pentacles, two very worldly, earthy, down and dirty, very practical answers to what if I wasn't afraid? What would I do? The first one, the Three of Pentacles, the Three of Maker 3, is the card of teamwork, the card of collaboration and learning. So our first answer, yeah? And you saw, did you notice that the Maker 3, the Three of Pentacles card looks something like the Crone card, right? It's a fairy image, but you see this large fairy rising above the landscape. But this is a card of teamwork, of collaboration. So I would rise above my fear and collaborate, work with other people. I would get my team together, my tribe together, and work together with them. I would learn. I would rise above my fear and I would learn from it and learn to move forward. Also, it's a card of implementation, taking the tools that we have around us and putting them to use. Yeah? If I weren't sabotaging myself, I wouldn't be giving up all of the tools that I have around me. I would pick them up and start using them. Yeah, I might make a mistake. I might fudge something up. I might break something with my tools, but then I would learn and I would get more materials and I would continue going if I weren't afraid. If I weren't afraid, I would put what I know to work, I would learn more, and I would work with the people around me, because all of this universe is a co-creation. Our streams, our rivers of intention are individual within a greater, wider, more universal, powerful river of intention. This is all a co-creative experience, and our streams, our currents of intention move together and move apart and intermingle and then separate, and that's how we move through this ever-present now experience as we evolve and create together. And then the other answer is the Seven of Spirals, the Seven of Pentacles, which is the card of a long-term view. I wouldn't be so focused on what's happening right now. We want to be focused on what's happening now. Okay, let me correct that. We want to be focused on what's happening now. But I wouldn't be so focused on my what I'm calling my failure now. I would not be so focused on the thing that went wrong, according to me. I would have a longer perspective, knowing that I'm going to keep going and we'll move past this and I will learn and grow. It's a card of sustainable results. So if I weren't afraid, I would be willing to tend my garden and get more sustainable results. It's a card of patience. So this seed that I planted did not grow, or it grew a little bit and it died, and I learn, and I am patient, and I will plant again. And I'll do something different. And this time the seed will grow. And perhaps this time the fruit won't bear fruit. So I will learn. And the next time I plant my seed, it'll grow. And maybe this time it'll bear fruit. Now, the long-term view and patience. It's surveying what I am doing now, what I have planted and how it is developing, and being willing to prune. When we soar in joy, that doesn't mean that we're not looking at things and saying, oh, that's not turning out well, so let me prune that off and let something else grow. Let me trim off that branch so these branches will have more room to grow. Now, pruning is fine. We can prune in joy. We can prune in love. And that is the Seven of Spirals, the Seven of Pentacles. So I would be willing to use my tools. I'd be willing to collaborate, knowing that collaboration is the way to go. And I would have patience. And I would take the longer view of what I'm doing and how it's going to evolve. And be willing to trim and prune and modify and edit. If I weren't afraid, I'd be able to do all of that. Instead of giving up and saying, I'm not good at this, I can't do this, I can't. I'm not. All those self-sabotaging things. If I weren't afraid, I could do all of that. Let's look at the next question. We've gone from what if I weren't afraid to what am I attracted to now? Because if we're not afraid, we're able to move forward. And being moved forward and moving forward is that action of attraction, right? The law of attraction. What am I attracted to? And these two cards are amazing together, I think. The first one is the Warrior Fire, which for the Tarot Vichy is the Ace of Wands in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Yeah? The Warrior of Fire. And you see this elven creature soaring up from a volcano with the explosion of a volcano, with all of that fire beneath him or her, rising up into the air. That initial burst of energy, of passion, of creativity. And right next to it we have the Nine of Wings, which for the Philarcos Tarot is the Nine of Swords in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And here you have another person looking like they might also be rising up, but in a very different way. So, what am I attracted to? I am attracted to the Ace of Wands. I'm attracted to inspiration. I'm attracted to new opportunities for growth, potential, creativity, sexuality. I'm attracted to all of that burst of creative energy, perhaps from the root chakra shooting up, Kundalini energy. That first burst of creative energy, where what am I going to make? I get this feeling of, I can do, I want you. I want to do that. I want to try that. I want to create this. That's what we're attracted to. We're attracted to that burst of energy. However, right next to it we have what usually happens when we get that burst of energy and we haven't solved our self-sabotage problem. The Nine of Swords happens directly, and we're somehow negatively attracted. We're attracted to that as well. Now we get this burst of and then we get the next attraction of the Knight of Swords, the card of anxiety, the card of nightmares, the card of worry and fear. I get this, I want to do that, but what if? I want to try that, but oh my God, what if I really did try it? Now, we shift right into that self-sabotaging fear and worry and anxiety. Have you noticed yourself doing that ever? I want to try oil painting. And you go to the store and you look at all of these oil paints and you think, oh my God, what is all of this? What am I going to choose? What am I going to do? I've been there. Have you been there? Mine hasn't been oil painting, but I've been there. I do that from time to time. You see, I want him or her. Let's say him. I want him. And, oh, but what if he actually looked at me? What if he actually talked to me? What would I say? All those self-sabotaging things. We go from that Ace of Wands moment to that Nine of Swords moment. Oh my God, what if? Instead of, what if we turn into fear, we turn into worry, anxiety. Which is fine, we're not playing the blame game here, right? You're not a bad person for doing that. We all do that. It's part of the human experience. But we can make another choice. We can do several things with that. We can, one, recognize it. Recognize, oh, there, okay, it's happening. And breathe our way through it, perhaps. Ground ourselves, perhaps. Perhaps we can welcome that fear. Yeah? There's a new book that I'm reading by Rhonda Burns, which she recommends welcoming those negative feelings. Because the moment that we stop resisting them, and by resisting them, giving them more power, the more no, I don't want to be afraid, I hate this, I don't want to be afraid, I don't want to be, that we give that power to that emotion, or we repress it. No, I'm not afraid, that negative, destructive emotion grows, becomes much more powerful, and either waits in the dark until it bursts forth like a very dangerous volcano, or it just stands there becoming a thicker and thicker wall between us and what we want to do. Instead, if we can welcome it, we can diffuse it. I welcome my fear. I welcome the fear that I'm feeling right now. I welcome my anxiety. And then change it. It's not my anxiety. I welcome anxiety. You don't have to own the emotion. It doesn't have to become you. I don't have to own my emotion. It's not my anxiety. I'm not the owner of it. It is not me. It is a thing, an experience. And I welcome this experience now. I welcome this fear. I welcome this tension. And the more I welcome the tension, the more it is diffused, the less power it has over me. And here, I'm not talking about clinical diagnoses here. Clinical diagnoses need to be treated separately, not by me, by a physician. But average, common anxiety, common fear, common worry. We can welcome that experience as for what it teaches us at the moment, and perhaps be able to move past it. Maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, but eventually we can grow to that point. So what am I attracted to? I'm attracted to that burst of energy, and I know with that burst of energy often will come a self-sabotaging fear. And if I can recognize that in advance, or know that that's one of my reactions, I might be able to deal with it in one way or another, until it happens less and less and less. And my solution becomes easier and quicker when it does happen. And I become my inner crone. Let's look at the third question. The third question is, where is my strength? And it's a perfect third question. Yeah. First is, what if I weren't afraid? What am I attracted to? Which included a little bit of fear. So I want to get past it. So where is my strength? Where is my strength? And here we have two cards. We have Maker Prince, which is the Knight of Pentacles in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And then we have King of Coral, which is the King of Cups in a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So we have the Knight of Pentacles and the King of Cups, which one would not necessarily think of as perhaps strength. Not in the sense of strength like the Knight of Swords might have. Not in the kind of strength that perhaps the Queen of Wands or the King of Wands might have. Or even the Strength card might have. This is a very different kind of strength that we're talking about here. Not necessarily physical strength. Not necessarily mental strength. Or physical strength. Or, I think I said that. Or the strength of passion and drive. This is a very different kind of strength. Because we don't want to power through our self-sabotage. We don't want to try and punch our way through or blast our way through. We want to do something else. And the first card, the Knight of Pentacles, is a card of hard work, of productivity, of methodical progression. It's the rational, stable card, reliable, routine. It's the slow, he is thought of as the slowest moving prince in the deck. Yeah, he goes one step after another. Think of an old farm where people would use an ox to tie it up to a plow, and they would use that to plow their fields. It's not going to go 60 miles an hour. It's going to go one step after the other. And then once the field is plowed, then they wouldn't have a huge machine to scatter the seeds. They'd have a little bag and they would go step by step scattering the seeds. Yeah, that's the kind of knight that the Knight of Pentacles is. One step after another. And that is where our strength is. Our strength isn't in the amount of energy we can use in a moment, especially when it comes to self-sabotage. Our strength lies in our ability to put the next foot in front of the other, to do the routine work. To do our daily exercise if we need to exercise. To establish a routine, perhaps even of meditation. To not expect the moment that we begin a work of art that it will be completed in 10 minutes. Unless you're doing that style of art. But if you're doing most forms of art, expecting the lump of clay to become a beautiful glazed vase in 10 minutes is unreasonable, irrational. We want to be the Knight of Pentacles. We want to take it one step at a time. We start shaping the clay. We mold the clay. We let it rest. We come back. We add water. We turn it, perhaps. See if we feel a ghost's hands around ours as we make the vase. But yeah, we take it one step at a time. And that's where our real strength lies, in everything. Taking it one step at a time. And sometimes each step can come very quickly. There are times when those steps are more like a running. But there are times when those steps are like a very, very slow process. And that slowness is a judgment. But there are times when those steps feel quicker than others. And all of that we want to be fine. And that is our strength. When we are the Knight of Pentacles, we have that strength of patience, fortitude, willing to do the work, to take the steps freely. Not an effort, not an, okay, I'll do it. Oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it even though I hate it. Not that. That's self-sabotage. But, okay, I'm doing this. And I'm going to learn to enjoy each step of cleaning the house, each step of writing a report, each step of doing research in a library. Whatever your task is. Each step of changing the diaper. Whatever your task is, I'm going to relax into it and enjoy each step. That is our strength. And the next kind of strength that we have is the King of Cups, the one who is emotionally balanced. The one who can be emotionally balanced when everything around them might be in turbulence. There might be a storm raging all around the King of Cups, and yet he is centered, or she is centered, and balanced and stable, sure of themselves within the storm. The King of Cups is diplomatic. He can work with many, many different people in all of their expressions. The King of Cups is also caring. He or she cares for all of those around us. And that is our strength. That is another form of our strength. It's caring. Being stable in our emotions and being able to share and understand the emotions of those around us. Because we don't want to play the blame game either. Well, you shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be upset. You shouldn't be sad. You shouldn't. That's not it. That's not our power. Our power is, I am here and I am present for you. And I will help call you to the light. I'm not going to push you into the light. I'm not going to drag you into the light. I'm going to be the light for you to come to when you are ready. And I will shine my light on you until you want to accept it. Until you, no, I'm not going to beat you over the head with my light either. I'm going to shine it. And if you accept it, that's great. And if you're not ready to accept it, that's great. I'm here. Open up and take my light. That's not what we're saying either. Yeah? I'm here for you. That's the King of Cups. And that is a strength. Both of those. Taking the next step, taking the next step, taking the next step, and shining our light. Let's look at the fourth question. We've moved from our fears to our attractions, to our strength, to now what am I hoping for? What am I hoping for? And the two cards we have here are one, Dancer 4, which is the Four of Cups in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and we have the World card. Now the Four of Cups is a tricky card sometimes, because it's often thought of as a card of ennui, blasé, dissatisfaction, not disappointment, but dissatisfaction, like, is that all there is? Is this what I've got? Isn't there anything else? It's emotions that are so stable that they're no longer, they've lost their interest, they've lost their flavor. But it can also be a kind of a meditative card. Now, turning our attention inwards to look at our emotions, to feel, where am I right now? Away from external distractions, inward. But is that what I'm hoping for? It could be something I'm hoping for, especially if I'm in the moment of self-sabotage. That could be something I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to, okay, stop, turn inwards and look within. What really is there? What do I have? What are my strengths? What am I attracted to? What would I do if I weren't self-sabotaging? Looking within. Sure, that could be a hope. That could definitely be a hope. Introspection, reflection can be a hope, certainly. Contemplation. However, if we're not in the middle of sabotage, There's another way to read this card. The Four of Cups is a card of, like I said, apathy, of dissatisfaction. Is that all there is? And that's not something we're hoping for. However, in most Four of Cups cards, you will notice that there is a person looking at 3 cups, and then there is a hand holding another cup, a spiritual hand, perhaps a divine hand, offering a new cup. But the person in the card is not looking there. They're looking at the stuff they've already experienced and thinking, yeah, is that it? And so in this card, what do we have? We have a fairy figure lounging by a pool, looking at their own reflection and thinking, okay, which is introspection, certainly, which is a good thing to do. We could be hoping for that, again, if we're coming from a place of self-sabotage. However, if we move past that, we might get a little bit bored staring at our face in the water. We could feel a little bit, yeah, is that all I am? Is that the limits of me? Start feeling our limitations. Start feeling blah, bland, blasé, blah. And you'll see, do you remember seeing in the background, there is another figure there? Yeah, the fairy looking in the water is not alone. There is a chance for other interaction, for other emotional connection. So maybe the other way of reading this card could be that what we are hoping for is a new connection. And it's there. All we have to do is turn and look at it and receive it, to open ourselves to it, the possibilities. So we're hoping to open ourselves to the possibilities that are being offered to us. And the next card is the World card, which is a card of fulfillment, completion, integration, accomplishment. It's a card of masterpiece for some. The consummation of a line of events. The culminating point. That's the end of one cycle before the beginning of the other. And that could be what we're hoping for. We're hoping to reach that fulfillment from that state of, oh, okay, so I'm here. Now what? To receiving the new and moving towards our hopes of fulfillment. And then the next start, the new beginning after that. Because there is no endedness to our lives. Remember that. I hope you always remember that there is no endedness to life. Even when these physical bodies are lost, that's not an end. It is a transition into a new state of life. First, we transition back into the fullness of our eternal selves, and then we may choose to have another human experience in another body at another time. But that is another one of our hopes, right? To receive the new and to move forwards towards the completion of what we are experiencing. Knowing that there's no real completion, that we reach the end, what seems like an end and the beginning of the new. We reach a transition point. So isn't this an interesting reading? Yeah, we started with self-sabotage, which is something that I think we all experience. And we realized that what we want to do is become our inner crone. We want to embody the crone and soar above the obstacles that we create for ourselves. And then if I weren't afraid, I would work with those around me. I would use my tools, and I would be patient and look at what's growing and appreciate and trim and prune. And I would realize my attraction to my bursts of passion and creativity. And and when I do sometimes get afraid by that burst, recognize it and work with that fear that anxiety, that worry, and realize my strength of routines, my strength of progress, of moving, taking one step after the other, and finding my center, finding my light, and shining that around on those around me, and trying as much as possible to find my balance in the powerfully moving current of my intention. And keeping my eye on my hopes of receiving the new connection. And moving towards the completion of what I'm experiencing and through the transition into the new. All of those leading me past self-sabotage. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what of this makes sense to you or what doesn't make sense to you. I'd like to engage with you on this and on any topic that we talk about. So friends, in just a moment, we'll be seeing the decks, remember. Take a peek at those and remember the links below if you want to order them. And hit the like button if you feel called to like. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm. Smash the alarm button so that you get notified when I upload videos. I upload videos at least once a week. And also comment below and share if you feel called to share. If you know somebody who might get benefit from this, share this with somebody. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.